But my advice, and this works all the time, guys, I would suggest always live below your means. If you want to achieve financial freedom, don't be so quick. Resist the urge to upgrade your lifestyle as your income also increases. So try to remain closer to the ground for as long as possible. Set up your savings, set up your investments. Good day, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of School of Finance, brought to you by TMMBS TV. Today, I'm joined by a guest who is a senior financial planner. I consider him to be a specialist in the topics that we're going to be discussing today, and he likes to consider himself as a wealth champion. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Obakeng Maoka.
How's it, Tibza?
No,
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me here today. I think it's great what you guys are doing here at TMMBS, with this initiative. And I look forward to, our conversations and what it is that you have in store for me today.
Yeah. I mean, so just to jump in the conversation, right? Why are South Africans, or people in general, bad with money? I saw a stat by FNB, and correct me if I'm wrong, don't quote me on this. I think about 75% of us, once we get our salaries, it's finished within the first 5 days, or 75% of it is finished in the first 5 days. What do you think is happening, from a financial perspective?
Look, I mean, I think, and it goes deeper than just finance, right? I think if we were to investigate the question further, we'd see that, us as humans, maybe it's human nature, we bad when it comes to things that are meant to be good for us, right? I mean, just think about how we're supposed to be living healthy living, healthy lifestyle, going to the gym. But, I mean, we don't have the discipline, to do that, right? We're not good at that. I mean, if you think about reading books, I mean, books are something that we need to read, right, to stimulate the mind, to expand our way of thinking. But not a lot of people read books or have the discipline to read books. So essentially, we can see.
I'm guilty of that.
So then, I mean, essentially, we can see that it's human nature for us, to be good at things that are meant to be good for us. Because if we can think about it, I mean, good personal finances or being able to manage your finances is something that's supposed to be good for you, right? But we're not good at it, right? And I mean, from the top of my head, there's two things that stand out for me, right? First being that people are not really financially literate. Right? There's a stat that I saw that says that, only 42% of South Africans are financially literate. So meaning that 58% of people don't have the ability to understand basic financial concepts, right? So meaning that people don't understand what an asset is, what a liability is, what debt is, good debt, bad debt, and so on and so forth, right? And if you were to look at, the financial system and how it's structured, then you'll get to see that any poor financial decision that people make or have made or are going to make is due to the fact that they didn't have the correct information, right? So it's a lack of information that results in people making bad financial decisions, right? And essentially what that means is that the people that have that information are always going to succeed. And people that don't have information,
keep staying stuck in that same place.
Exactly, they're not going to succeed. So it's a matter of, we have to, as South Africans, increase, our knowledge when it comes to financial stuff, right? What they mean. If we don't want to be caught in, this cycle whereby we doing bad when it comes to our finances. And, the second thing, it's, people's beliefs when it comes to their finances, right? So this is this gentleman called Myron Golden. So this guy's an author, entrepreneur, and, he releases content on YouTube. And he says that, your belief when it comes to money will determine the relationship that you have with money, right?
Makes sense,
So he ends up saying that, if you look at poor people's belief when it comes to money, their belief is that money should be used to pay your bills, right? So you get money, pay bills, you buy groceries, and so on and so forth. And when you look at the middle class, they believe and their relationship with money is that you earn money to pay your bills as well as, to maintain a good credit score.
Okay, yeah.
Right? And when you look at rich people, what their relationship is with money is that they use money to buy what we call IPAs, which is, interest producing assets. Because they believe that, money should be used to create more money.
More money, yeah.
And therefore, then you can see the difference in how people, use money, right? And therefore, a person who's rich and who's interested in growing money will therefore look for the information that will help him grow that money, right? And therefore, they will succeed in a sense. So it's an information game.
Okay. I mean, that's true, right? Because I've also seen, even with your own personal journey as a person, whether you're in 9 to 5 or your entrepreneurship, whatever the case might be, the more you earn, to a certain extent, the better your decision making becomes with money. But do you also think, apart from maybe it being a knowledge thing, do you think that things like even how much your earning capacity is also plays a role? Because I'll give you an example. So, I mean, my first question when I thought about this conversation was, for a lot of people, they don't also believe in savings. There's this saying that when you start to save for rainy days, it starts to pour the next morning, And it speaks to the whole concept of, do you think that saving can also maybe be put into contradiction in terms of time value of money?
I don't think it's a matter of how much you have, in order to make good financial decisions. Right. It's a matter of looking for that information, and sometimes, being in the right spaces where you can get that information. I mean, we live in the world of, internet, whereby everything is accessible to us, right? So if you want that information, you will get it. And I mean, as people, it's easy for us to change, how we are when we're dealing with certain things, right? So if you're a person who, you're very interested in growing your wealth and you look for the information, then essentially you'll do the things that will mean that you get what I'm saying. It supports you attaining that, right?
Okay.
And I mean, when we look at wealth, I mean, people have different definitions of wealth. We think that wealth means that you need to be a billionaire, a millionaire, or earn a lot of money. But essentially what wealth is that how long your money can work for you without you working, right? So for example, if you're a person who earns 1 million a month, right? But your expenses are worth 950,000 per month. So if you were to lose that income for 1 month, you're poor.
You left it 50K, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But you find someone who's earning 2,000 rand per month and, they have 100,000 in savings. Who's more wealthy? Right? Because that person, 100,000 would last them longer, right? Because their lifestyle is worth 2,000. So wealth is not a matter of how much you have, but how much your money can work for you without actually working, right? And to answer your other question with regards to, savings being in contradiction with, time value of money, we have to look at what time value of money is.
Yes.
And the components that comprises of time value of money. TVM. So when we're looking at the two main components of TVM is one, period, so the time, so how long you have to invest for, and two is interest, which is how long or how much you're willing to earn from that investment, right? So essentially, when we're looking at savings have those two components. They have time, they have interest, right? So they don't necessarily contradict time value of money or the concept of time value of money. The only difference is, how the interest is calculated, right? So there's two ways in which interest can be calculated. It's simple interest as well as compounded interest, right? So when we're looking at savings accounts, then they calculate it using simple interest. And essentially what simple interest means is that only the money that you have saved or the initial investment will then grow interest, right? And compounding interest means that the money that you invested plus the interest that you make on that money will then grow interest.
100%.
So, for example, if you invest 100 rand and you earn 5%, it means that you make 5% from that 100 rand.
Okay.
Right? And next month you still earn 5% just like that on the initial capital invested, right? But with compounding interest, you put 100 rand, the next month you made 5%, so it's 105 rand, and then that 105 rand now grows in, you get what I'm saying? So if I should put it in simple terms, let's say you have a seed, right? And you have these two seeds and you plant them and they grow and they become trees, and these trees now they bear fruits, right? So one fruit is only gonna bear both of them, let's say they bear 5 fruits.
Okay.
Right? So now on the one tree, you're only gonna get the fruits that the tree produces, which is five fruits.
of them. Okay.
On the other tree, this tree now, it bears fruits, but the tree's fruits bear fruit, right? So now what happens is that you're not only limited to the five fruits, you can get 5 plus the other ones that, you know, the fruit of the tree will also bear. So it means that essentially your money is growing exponentially, right? So that's the difference between compounding and simple interest. So that's why I say that, you know, simple interest doesn't necessarily contradict the principles of TVM. It's just how interest is calculated on savings accounts.
And I mean, we talk about savings, but I always feel like before we even get to things like savings and investments, let's talk about the one thing that allows you to save, which is how to prepare a budget. And I've seen a number of times, especially like social media, there's all of these guys that will just type out 50% for needs, 30% for wants, 20% for savings, whatever the case might be. But, you know, to someone like yourself, what do you think is a very practical way of going about how to budget?
And I mean, just to add on that, people have this misconceptions that budgets don't work, right? And essentially a budget, what it is, it's you telling your money how you're going to spend it, right? So it's not that the budget doesn't work. It's just that we don't have the discipline. To be committed and stay, you know, within our budgets, right? And I guess it's because people don't want to face the reality that maybe they're broke, right? Because think about it. If you're setting a budget, it means that you have to list all your income, all your expenses. And now when you're doing this, you might have to face the reality that, you don't have as much money as you thought you had. So you're actually kind of broke, right? So essentially, when you're doing a budget, for it to be realistic, you know, I hear you mentioning that example of 50, 30, 20. But essentially also, you know, that example, that system really works. Right? We might say it's not realistic because we've already overspending on certain things. Right? So you find that you have to spend 50% on needs, but essentially you're spending 60% on wants, and it's hard to actually go back to, you know, moving it to the 50% need, because probably you have debt because you bought a car that you don't really afford, right? Because we always say that qualifying does not mean affordability. So it doesn't mean you actually afforded that car, right? True. So essentially what that model does, the 50, 30, 20 model, if you were to, you know, do it correctly, and essentially it's something that, you know, people who just started working, I mean, because essentially you don't have any expenses yet, or even if you do have expenses, your expenses are not that much. So therefore there's adjustments that you can make, right? So the 50, 30, 20 should actually be one of those things that are taught in school, so that, you know, it can be something that, you know, you can implement once you start working, because essentially it does work. Because let's say, for example, you earn 10,000 Rand per month, right? So you would know that, I mean, 50% should go to your needs, which would be, you know, your accommodation, your food, your groceries, your toiletries, and so on and so forth, transport money. And then, you know, 30% is the things that you want, right? So, you know, going on dates, going out with friends, and so on and so forth. And then 20% can then be used for savings and investments. But now what people are doing is that you earn 10,000 Rand and then you buy a car that you're going to pay 5,000 Rand per month. And essentially 50% of your income now is going to a want, right? So now it's hard to now backtrack and start again. So essentially, so that system works if you're new to the job market and you're starting to work. Not saying that it wouldn't work for someone who, you know, has already been, you know, within the system, has been earning, and so on and so forth. Obviously, it's going to take a lot of discipline, and it's something that people can look into.
I mean, I think you've covered pretty much, you know, most of the things that I know that people wanted to know. Thank you for your, you know, contribution as far as, you know, the topic being their budgeting and savings. So I think before we move on to our next conversation or our next topic, I just want to close this with just a mini sidebar. So I think also you guys have heard for yourselves, but my advice, and this works all the time, guys, I would suggest always live below your means. If you want to achieve financial freedom, don't be so quick. Resist the urge to upgrade your lifestyle as your income also increases. So try to remain closer to the ground for as long as possible. Set up your savings, set up your investments, and then hopefully later when you guys have heard from him, there's levels, there's broke, there's rich, there's wealthy. So until you get to a point where your money works for you, I would always suggest resist the urge of upgrading your lifestyle when your income increases. Thank you.